Recorded Books and RB Digital present Breaking Bad Habits, Defy Industry Norms and Reinvigorate Your Business by Freek, Vermeulen. Narrated by Daniel Henning. Preface. Organizations are great. I love them. Not just because I make a living studying them, but because they are the true building blocks of human life. Organizations have produced or affected pretty much everything we touch, eat, wear, and see. They achieve and construct things that no individual could make or sometimes even imagine. However, organizations are also filled with practices, habitual ways of doing things that are sometimes inefficient and bureaucratic and that make our blood boil. Sometimes these inefficient practices and strategies spread and persist for decades or even longer. They persist just like viruses persist in nature. They take on lives of their own and continue operating despite leading to suboptimal results in the companies that embody them. The good news is that smart managers can purposefully identify and eradicate them and then turn them into a profitable source of renewal and innovation. That is what this book is about. Introduction. Fertile ground. Some years ago in London, I met a doctor who worked at an in vitro fertilization (IVF) clinic. After telling me about his field and the shape of the industry in the United Kingdom, he immediately and vigorously started discussing what he and others in the industry referred to as the League Table, a government-mandated and publicly accessible website with information on all the IVF clinics in the UK that the Human Fertilization and Embryology Authority compiles and publishes annually. Since the website included information on each clinic's success rate, people had started treating it as a ranking. The website was an admirable attempt to increase transparency and influence consumer behavior. Since most clinics in the UK are private, although there are a fair number of National Health Service clinics too, and the procedure is expensive, the idea was to empower patients to go online, study the information, and make better choices about their medical care. Even better, the reported success rates were based on objective data. In many businesses, you can debate whether something is a success or a partial failure, and so on, but not in IVF. The percentage of births that result from treatment is clear-cut. Either patients get pregnant or they don't. Therefore, the League Table was intended to be good for both patients and clinics. The best clinics were rewarded for their high success rates, and patients were empowered to seek out the best practitioners. But there was a problem that well-intentioned politicians had overlooked. A clinic's success rate is not only driven by how skilled it is at performing the IVF procedure, but is also affected by the quality of the input, or the women who walk through the doors. Physiologically, some women are more receptive to IVF treatment than others, so a clinic's success rate is heavily weighted by the age, health, and fertility of the women it accepts as patients. For example, a clinic that only accepts women who are in their early 20s and are fertile, have never before undergone in vitro treatments, and have ample eggs that can be freshly harvested, as they say in the industry, would have high success rates. Whereas a clinic that also treats women in their 40s who have unsuccessfully tried in vitro treatments in the past and only have a handful of eggs left over in the freezer from previous treatments would probably have lower success rates. This was a problem. Since the success rates were measured and publicized so widely and were known to influence consumer behavior, some clinics began to change their selection criteria to maximize their rankings. They practiced what I call selection at the gate, after the Dutch expression selectie aan de poort. They purposely gravitated toward easier and more probable cases while avoiding more complicated ones, and this became a best practice in the industry. Despite the short-term boost, selection at the gate wasn't good for anyone involved. Doctors and clinic administrators felt as if they were stuck between economics and education.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.